that the artificial intelligence hype is very much alive and well. Here to discuss all of this and more is Matt Kohrs. He's host of the Matt Kohrs Show. Matt, it's great to have you here on set. So we're looking at gains of 25% today for Nvidia. You have a great pulse on the retail trader, the retail investor. What has their reaction been to the massive climb that we've seen in Nvidia, and whether or not this hype is going to continue?
Nothing but pure excitement. And I feel like they've been calling it out for actually many months now, because everyone's been using ChatGPT and other just forms of AI. The discussion's been there, and I would say the major names are Nvidia and Microsoft. Obvious the connection to OpenAI, but excitement, and hey, the market agrees with it as well.
Matt, I'm going to play the contrarian take here, not necessarily my take, but we have seen excitement around technology before. And I'm thinking about something like crypto, not necessarily Bitcoin, but just what we saw in a player like Nvidia, some of these chip makers, when we were seeing significant upside in the crypto space. How do you look at this in relation to some other emerging technologies and the rallies that we've seen on the back of that?
I guess on a comparative value right now, if you were to do a basic fundamental breakdown, I think most people would agree that Nvidia is, yes, fundamentally overvalued. But then that brings up a very interesting argument of what is value? Is that the full equation? Is value equal to fundamental value, or is there a little bit more of a complication in there? And I would argue that, yes, value is fundamental value, plus more of crowd support, maybe a little hype support, maybe a little bit of riding the wave. So right now, I'm a massive fan of Nvidia, and I think its future over the next couple of years is a very bright one. But in the short term, when you see explosions of this, I mean, it ended yesterday at $750 billion, and now it might be close to being the 9th company being worth $1 trillion. It seems like in the very short term, it's more of a high-octane, volatile trade, and I would be careful in both directions.
Matt, when it comes to that excitement with AI, clearly Nvidia, the massive beneficiary, at least for today, and it certainly has been given the position that they do have within the space. But what about some of the other established names that are out there when it comes to Google, Microsoft, even Meta, that has also been riding this AI boom? What do you make about that explosive growth that we've seen in some of those companies, specifically Meta, year to date?
Well, with all of those, I think there's exciting things that are going to kind of play out over the next couple of years. So the first three, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're going to end up vertically integrating, if I had to assume here. They're not going to always just be purchasing their chips from Nvidia or potential competitors if they're able to end up scaling up. But with Meta right now, it feels like at first there was such a focus on the metaverse, and obviously the market reacted very, very poorly to it. And then when you slice a couple jobs and get a little bit more into AI right now, for a while there, if you said blockchain, 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 your stock exploded. Now all you have to do is say AI over and over again.
We've been seeing that.
And you just add billions to your market cap. That's, I guess, what they're teaching at business school these days.
Matt, that was exactly what I was referring to. Better put than I said about emerging technologies really adding to the exuberance on the market. Let's talk about potential meme stocks, because you've always got a good pulse on how retail investors are framing certain names. Mm-hmm. There's a debate going on about whether these regional banks have been, can we say memeified? Is that a word? I mean, what are you hearing about how they're looking at this space right now? And would you call it a meme stock?
I feel like the term meme stock and what the retail investors are paying attention to, it's been changed so much over the past 2-3 years now. At first, it was just GameStop because it was crazy what happened. We were all in our sweatpants on our couch. But now just so many things have played out, and it feels as if we're applying the word meme stock to just anything that generically retail is paying attention to, or really just anything that has massive moves. I mean, right now, looking at the crazy movement in Nvidia, why not just call that a meme stock? Because a lot of retail has been making a lot of money. So when it comes to banks, I wouldn't call it a meme stock. I would call it a highly volatile trade. So of course, a lot of retail traders are very interested in it, especially with the explosion of zero DTE options trading. So there's a lot of interest. But in terms of meme stock, I wouldn't necessarily say it really crosses over into that definition quite yet.
And Matt, taking a look at one name that's certainly been very volatile, and I know you've been closely tracking the movements here lately, the losses that we're seeing in Icon Enterprises. So initially we got the short seller report from Hindenburg, and then we also just had Carl Icahn's, I don't want to say enemy, but they certainly do not line up. Maybe they are enemies, it's safe to say. Bill Ackman kind of piling on here, adding some of that fuel to the fire. What do you make of this back and forth, and also just the fallout that we've seen in Icon Enterprises?
Honestly, Nvidia is a crazy story right now, but I think IEP and Icon and Bill Ackman is my most exciting story right now. As I was walking to this set, there's another update that Icon might sue Hindenburg, and they're also considering a share buyback, like literally within the past 5 minutes. So I find it fascinating. Hindenburg making a very valid point of maybe a little bit overvalued compared to the net asset values. Ackman coming out, and I love this kind of coy game that they're playing of, no, I'm totally not in the play. I'm not doing anything. I don't know if he is. I don't know if he isn't. Bill doesn't call me anymore. But anyway, it is a serious accusation, and apparently as the market is really digesting Hindenburg's accusations, they're starting to agree. We've fallen 60%, and even then, relative to its peers, you could argue it's still trading at a premium. And for it being Ackman itself, a player who was notorious for saying, hey, mismanagement and using too much leverage, now that's exactly what he's being accused of. So it's a story of the battling of Goliath, and I'm really enjoying watching it play out.
And so in the last 5 days, off just about 40%. All right, Matt Kohrs, stick around because we're going to get your take on some of the other trending stories of the day in just a bit. Let's take a look at some of the top trending stories of the day. We have Matt Kohrs, host of the Matt Kohrs Show, alongside Yahoo Finance's Josh Schaefer and Alexandra Canal. Let's get into it. First up, we got to talk about the Twitter debacle. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' big plan to announce he's running for president on Twitter last night. Well, that ran into some technical issues. Elon Musk wanted to host this call on Twitter Spaces, but there was lots and lots of trouble. David Sachs, Craft Ventures, a co-founder here, had to take over hosting duties for a little bit of time. Let's take a listen to what some of that back and forth sounded like between Musk, Sachs, and DeSantis.
Governor DeSantis, are you there? Can you hear us? I think you broke.
I'm here.
I know. I think you broke the internet there. We had over 500,000 people in one Twitter space, and it was growing by like 50,000 a minute. So, congrats on breaking the internet there.
Well, yeah. I mean, try some new things. You're gonna.
Yes.
It's adventurous. You can tell by the some of the mistakes that it's real.
So you can see, obviously did not go as planned. It was, I thought, an interesting idea, a unique idea, Matt, but it was over 20 minutes that those technical difficulties persisted. And by the time that DeSantis came on to announce, only about half the people that had initially been logged on were still watching or listening.
I was trying to stream the whole thing and fill in that 20 minutes of dead air. I didn't know what was going, but it was kind of interesting. In a weird way, I felt like I expected it. Like, of course, it was going to be huge numbers, record-breaking, but the news was all super negative, like just like an absolute embarrassment and that type of stuff. And it got to the degree that he took down Twitter. So in a weird way, like, it's a pro and a con. So I think there was a lot of backlash, impressive numbers. But then I was thinking about the real size of it. You need 70, 75 million votes to win. We didn't even get to 1 million. So, like, I think there's a couple ways you can interpret it fairly.
I think it's interesting just to see how many people are willing to go on Twitter Spaces that quickly, right? Yeah. The fact that you can get 600,000 people, I think is pretty impressive when you consider how many people use Twitter and to be on Twitter live at that time. Matt, I was curious from like a social media perspective, how much does that 20 minutes matter, you think? Like when if you go live on YouTube, are people waiting at exactly 7 o'clock, or do you feel like people are joining, at 7:02, 7:05? How does that part of it work?
I think with this, maybe that's why it felt like less negative to me, because people expect that. Mm-hmm. Like, it really wasn't like on TV, if there's a big announcement, we expect the time, but half the time when I'm waiting for the president to make an announcement, I still have to kill another 20 minutes. Right. So that's just the natural delay in politics, and I don't know why this one was any different.
Yeah, Twitter Spaces, I do think, have a lot of potential moving forward. Josh Farley, the Ford CEO, he's going on. Jim Farley, excuse me. I was looking at Josh Schaefer saying Jim Farley. He's going on with Elon Musk later today, so I think there's a lot of potential there. I miss the video aspect, maybe because I'm a video person, I'm a visual person. It'd be great if they could find a way to maybe incorporate some video, some remote video on that.
Yeah, that is a very good point there, but I also think it is a pretty smart marketing play, or at least just getting more and more attention on Twitter, because clearly Musk has made a number of changes. He's been struggling to really regain some of the user control that has been lost, or really people no longer going to Twitter, using Twitter like they did. So the fact that he has brought Twitter in the headlines once again, he's now holding this chat with the CEO of Ford, It makes a heck of a lot of sense if he's able to execute this well.
Well, and it's what Twitter was doing before Musk bought it when you really think about their interest in spaces over the last couple of years and how they've tried to build out that product, right? This is a product that Twitter was bullish on before Elon bought it because of the town square aspect that you can get with it. You can call people up, you can talk to them. I know sports was very interested in it because it was almost like sports radio, right? Where you can have callers come up and they can talk and then you can make them hang up and you have control over it. I think it's a really fun part of the social media. And it's interesting to see what Elon's going to be able to do with it. If he keeps having these big names, though, it does seem like they might keep having a couple tech issues.
Yeah, a lot of tech issues. They need to make some changes there, that's for sure.
But we're talking about Ron DeSantis, and I want to talk about the company that he's been fighting against a little bit here, Disney. And there's an interesting note out from Citi regarding Disney, and specifically what Disney could do with ESPN. So Citi calling and saying that if Disney were to remove ESPN's content, all the ESPN Plus, that would be worth $20 a share for Disney shareholders, and they're putting a $22 price tag per month on ESPN Plus. That's the projection that Citi says Disney should put on ESPN Plus, and that's sort of what catches my eye here, right? Is $22, obviously bigger than what you pay for most streaming platforms. But I don't know. Allie, you're a streaming expert.
I was shocked by that. That's the profit maximizing price. $22 to me feels not like that much, especially when you compare it to something like YouTube TV. Obviously, that's a totally different product. You have a lot more channels available, but that's $73 a month. And I feel like a lot of the people I know who sign up for YouTube TV do that solely for the sport. So I think there's even more runway here for ESPN Plus if it goes fully over the top to maybe bump that price up a little bit more and make that transition from linear to streaming that much easier.
They also just signed one of the biggest streamers on YouTube, Pat McAfee. He cut his FanDuel deal moving over there. So he's literally one of the biggest people. So that's going to bring quite a few. And then even if you look at it, risk reward, Disney's been coming down. It's around 88, major support at 80. It could go all the way back up to 200. So if you're just looking at a basic risk reward paradigm, it is a very interesting play.
You know, certainly. I was going to say it's been struggling now for quite some time. And I also think it's interesting in terms of what Citi said was the two lion's share, I guess, drivers here to the upside, because he says it's sports fans that had already cut the cord that are relying on ESPN Plus, which currently does not show the NFL or NBA games, which we know is a massive revenue driver and is what is keeping some people from cutting the cord. But that higher average revenue per user number that they could potentially get from those existing ESPN Plus subs, that could potentially make a real difference here in terms of Disney's future with streaming.
Well, when you think about sports, everyone always talks about how you can make so much money off those fans, right? You can get them to pay more to go to an in-person experience. You can get them to pay more for apparel. You can get them to pay more for streaming. And I don't think ESPN has really pushed the button there yet. So it'd be interesting to see how far they can get people to go. I know personally, I'm not going to miss games. You're going to pay for it eventually at some point.
Yeah, people are diehards. They don't want to miss their favorite team.
No, sports fans are hardcore, and you also have a certain sector of the population that are movie buffs, and they are pretty hardcore as well. MoviePass is launching nationwide today ahead of Memorial Day weekend. And guys, we know this company has been through a lot since emerging from bankruptcy. We now are in the MoviePass phase 2, if you will. I'm curious if you guys would be interested in signing up, but this is going to be available. You can sign up through different types of tiers. They range in plans from $10 a month to see 1 to 3 movies in a month to up to $40 a month to see 30 movies. Now, they give you credits, so you can use these credits to see certain titles. But the big issue is
movies. That's a movie a day.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a lot of
now, I'm assuming that would probably be a low credit film.
Yeah.
That'd be if you're someone that likes the indies. Maybe those that aren't as popular can imagine something like Disney's The Little Mermaid, which is out this weekend. That's going to be higher amount of credits. Yeah. But you have to wonder if the industry has enough movies.
I think you have to be so obsessed with movies to even do the $10 a month one, it seems like, just for 2 movies a month.
That's a lot.
But it's cheaper than it would maybe potentially cost you just to go to 1 movie. That would be my argument. I would
that's a
never
fair
do this.
point. That's a fair point.
But that would be my argument for why this could
Right.
maybe succeed this time around.
But I wouldn't even go and see 1 movie a month right now, I don't think. I go and see movies when they come out, and I'm definitely like to go to the movies, but I haven't been to a movie in a little over a month now. I went and saw Air, and I don't know what I'm going to see next. I guess I would see Mario. Like, you try and play it out in your head, and you're like, how many movies would you go see? I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a great time to drop it with this summer because like we're going to have a new Transformers movie, a new Indiana Jones. I'm sure there's a couple Marvel movies coming out. John Wick was out there, and Barbie's coming out. So I think it's a smart time to drop it. And also, what was it, circa 2016, 2017? When it was out, it was kind of viral for a moment there.
Right.
Like
MoviePass
everyone was talking about it.
Loved MoviePass.
Now, and obviously the AMC group, which this is like strongly paired up with, they're a very strong devout group as well. So now if we're merging those two groups, I could see a little bit of a virality nature to it for sure.
And I think this time around it makes a heck of a lot more sense, obviously, from just a business perspective. When they did make the changes back in, when was that, 2017, 2018, when they had it $10 per month for unlimited, clearly that was not going to work.
Yeah, that's you're not making money on that.
It's a credit system. Those credits fluctuate depending on the time of the day that the movie is shown, how popular the movie is, the list goes on. So this makes a lot more sense. And I do think it is a good idea to kind of win back some of those people who simply are not used to and are not going to the movies as much as they were pre-pandemic. With that said, I would not do it.
I think it'd be interesting to see how it helps food sales, though, at the movies, too, right? If you do get people going more, does that sort of help AMC when you think about what they're able to sell from a food perspective and getting people in that theater more? Because you get the deal on the ticket, but you're still probably buying popcorn every time, right?
And I like your theory that the apes, that they're going to be subscribing to MoviePass. That's interesting. I guess we'll have to see. I'm sure the theaters are bullish on this.
And they're diehard, so I think that that's a pretty safe bet. All right, Matt Kohrs, great to have you here. Josh and Allie, of course, thank you.